Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, True Crime Stories. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe so you can hear more. Thanks for stopping by. So as I was doing some research, I come upon this story and I wanted to share this. This is a case that took place in Kentucky in Nelson County. Now this happened in 2014. It's been 12 years since Kathy Netherland and her daughter Samantha died inside their home in Bardstown in Nelson County, Kentucky. This case remains unsolved. They were found murdered on April 22nd, 2014. Despite years of investigations, there have been no arrests and no suspects have been publicly identified. The sister of the victim of one of Kentucky's most heinous unsolved crimes says there is video showing the moment the killer walked into her sister Kathy Netherland's home. The video isn't very clear and it's hard to discern the person's identity, but it's a piece of evidence that Kentucky State Police never released or even told the public that they had. Stacy Hibbard hopes new advances in technology can help make an arrest after a decade since the murder of Kathy and her daughter Samantha. Now, this happened on April 22nd, 2014. Kathy, a special needs teacher, was shot to death, and her 16-year-old daughter Samantha was beaten, stabbed, and had deep neck cuts to her neck. Holly, her older daughter, was away at college at the time of this crime. Now, this seemed to be an unprovoked murder. No one knew of anyone that she had been having any trouble with, or the daughter had been having any trouble with. But here's my look at this. The daughter was brutally stabbed and had deep cuts to her throat and her neck. The mom was shot. So in my opinion, whoever came into that house was targeting the daughter. They shot the mom as a matter of just getting her out of the way so they could get to the daughter. Urgency peaked for the investigators as they swarmed the home and collected hundreds of pieces of evidence. Kentucky State Police became the lead investigating agency. The home where the murders happened is now rented and it was auctioned off for $40,000. 10 years, now we're at 12 years as of right now. This article was 2024. So 10 years have passed without even a single arrest or even a suspect being named. Now, the only thing that Kentucky State Police had ever released was a picture of a black Chevy Impala that they say they believe may have been involved. We are looking at a newer model black Chevy Impala that was seen near the Netherlands home. Now, Kentucky State Police, it was learned by local news media that Kentucky State Police knew the Impala was connected. The sister says Kentucky State Police also had a video of the car pulling into the back of the home. Now, this was something that Kentucky State Police had never released to the public. Now, it says here that there was footage of the car driving past Kathy's home. Now, they're coming from Bardstown, and then within a minute or two, the car comes back. It does a loop. So they drove around the neighborhood, they drove around the house. The video came from a liquor store right across the street. And she says, once the car disappeared from behind the home, a dark figure walks across the front porch. A few seconds later, someone comes to the door and opens the door and appears to let that person in. So this tells me that it was someone that they knew. The car leaves about 15 minutes later. Hibbard believes Kathy was shot in the living room, and then Samantha was brutally attacked moments later when she came out of her bedroom after hearing the gunshot. Kentucky State Police never released that video. A little bit more information about Samantha. In the spring of 2014, Samantha was 16. She was a sophomore at Bardstown High School. She was highly regarded as being one of the best students in her class. She was a member of multiple groups and clubs, and she belonged to the academic team, Women in Science, the Adventure Club, the Young Leaders Program, and she even sang in the honor choir. Now, she had recently been accepted into the Gatton Academy program. Now, this was an affiliate of Western Kentucky University. It was an early college entrance program, and it required good grades and lots of extracurriculars. In the spring of 2014, her mother, Kathy, had spoken to a reporter with the Kentucky Standard about Samantha's acceptance into this program. "I'm very excited for her," she said. "This was her goal and her dream, and despite everything that has happened over the past year, she did this on her own. I couldn't be more proud of her." Now, the thing she's talking about that the family had gone through was that a year earlier, not even a full year earlier, their father, Robert Netherland, Kathy's husband, had died of colon cancer. And so this was a hard time in their lives. They'd lost this man, and her daughter still maintained her good grades and had gotten into this program. Now this brings me to wonder, could this program have been seen as something, someone else maybe was competing for that position? I don't know. We've all heard of stranger things happening. We all remember the case of the Texas cheerleader mom who tried to hire a hitman to put a hit out on her daughter's rival for the cheerleading team. So stranger things have caused people to be murdered. It wasn't a well-kept secret that Samantha had a very bright future ahead of her, and she personally dreamed of being a marine biologist. It's possible that this has absolutely nothing to do with her murder, but Samantha being so brutally stabbed and cut, I think everybody, police, family members, the people in the community, all kind of looked at this as though, the same way I do, that Samantha was the intended target. Once again, I go back to the possibility of a jealousy of this prom coming up. Samantha was also known for being a pretty regular teenager. She loved to hang out with her friends and play video games. She was into 80s rock and roll, and she could name every Def Leppard song from the beginning guitar riff. Her sister bragged about this and said that this was something she was well known for. Now, her sister Holly was away preparing for her to wrap up her sophomore year of college, while Samantha was preparing for her high school prom. Her mother had just gone shopping for her dress and jewelry that week, and Kathy had posted pictures of it on her Facebook page. Here I go back to the possibility of a jealous rival. Could have been an ex-boyfriend, could have been the girlfriend of an ex of someone. This is a possibility. We've heard of things like this happening as well. On the morning of April 22nd, 2014, Kathy and Samantha both failed to show up at school. Their absence was noted. This was very unusual for either one of them to miss, and especially to not notify someone ahead of time that they were going to miss. Samantha, in particular, was very punctual. It was noted that both of them showed up without contacting anybody. School officials reached out to the Netherlands family members, and they made contact with Kathy's father, Norris Hardin. He said he would go over to the house and check to see what was going on. He stopped at the home at 5120 Springfield Road, just outside of Bardstown. But her father says when he pulled up, he noticed that Kathy's car was in the driveway, and he knew that she and Samantha must be inside. He made the decision to go into the home. This is where he found the bodies of his daughter and granddaughter brutally murdered. The funeral for Kathy and Samantha was held on April 28th at Parkway Baptist Church. 2 days later, they were buried in the local Bardstown City Cemetery beside of Robert, who had passed away about a year earlier. Now, Samantha was buried in the prom dress that she had picked out that weekend prior to her death. Her family wanted her to be able to wear it. She was planning on going to the prom. She had her dress, her shoes, her earrings, and now everything has come to an end. A memorial service was held for them on May the 2nd. Staff members of the school and students, as well as colleagues and people in the community, came out. And the investigation into the murders of Kathy and Samantha was overseen by the Kentucky State Police. Police believe that the crime unfolded around sunset on April the 21st. They believe that they were murdered in their home that evening. Now, we go back to the video footage that they didn't release at that time of this black Impala pulling up and someone going up to the door and being let into the home. 48-year-old Kathy had been shot multiple times. Police would never release the extent of the gunshots or the type of gun and ammunition that was used. They also say that Kathy had a deep cut on her neck, indicating that an assault had taken place. 16-year-old Samantha seemed to have been the primary target. Prior to her death, she had been beaten severely and had suffered serious wounds to her head. Her cause of death seems to be a slash to her throat, indicating that there could have been more than one attacker. But I said, my thought on it was that whoever this woman, this Kathy, opened the door to whoever this was. She knew them. She let them in. Now, as for the motive, investigators were stumped. Nothing was missing, nothing of importance. There were prescription drugs in the home that were untouched. Jewelry and electronics were not missing, nothing of any value. These were not murders for, a robbery. Lead investigators believe that this was a personal attack, and I do too, and I think everyone believed that. They had to have had some suspects. The killer or killers had likely planned this ahead of time, arriving at the scene, killing these two, and then leaving quickly. One of the only leads that investigators would float to the public was this black car that was seen in the area around the time they believe the murders took place. The vehicle was picked up by 3 different security cameras, and however, out of those 3 vehicles, only one would remain unidentified. The vehicle was a newer model 2006 to 2013 black Chevy Impala. Now, it had been caught leaving the area shortly after 8 p.m. This is when the police believe that these murders took place. They believe that this vehicle was the suspect's vehicle. And a couple of images of the car would be circulated, shots taken from nearby convenience store cameras. A Kentucky State Police Trooper, Jeff Gregory, revealed that the police were not able to get the license plate due to the angle of the cameras. There were a few things about the car that they were able to notice that it did not have, that it does not appear to have a chrome strip or a rear spoiler, and it had a small antenna mounted above the center of the rear windshield. They did release photos of the car, but they kept some of this other information quiet. Now, a web sleuth user was combing through social media pages of Kathy and Samantha, discovered an incident where Kathy detailed in a New Year's Eve Facebook post about 4 months before the murder. It details a bizarre event that she had while hanging out at home with her two daughters. Earlier this afternoon, this is what she had posted on her social media. I thought of our two cats had knocked something over. We didn't find anything disturbed, but we heard a noise. We didn't find anything disturbed, but we were wrong. A little while later, Holly opened the front door and walked outside and found both glass panes in our front screen door shattered. I've taken pictures and cleaned up all the glass. All the shattered glass pieces have been swept up. Now, could Holly have been Holly was the older daughter who was away at college. She was home that night when this happened, New Year's Eve. Could she have been the intended target? Did someone mistake her for Samantha? I don't think it was foul play, she wrote. There was no rock or anything, but a lot of people in the community told her that it could have been that both glasses were broke, both panes of glass. So it sounds like someone may have hit the glass with something. But now this web sleuth user thought that it was interesting to follow up. They actually examined the weather patterns that night, and there was no gusts of winds reported. Now this would have been December the 31st, 2013. In the Web Sleuth forum, users pointed out that Kathy had taken a picture of her front door on Christmas Day to highlight her Christmas decorations. In the photo, there is no visible damage to the front door. And so, fast forward, you'll notice the crime scene photo shows significant damage to the wood paneling just outside of the front door. This indicates there might have been some damage done to the front entrance of the home. Perhaps the culprits had tried to gain entrance into the home. So what they're saying is in her Christmas videos that she took, or Christmas photos of her decorations, there's no damage to the door. But after the murders took place and the police put up the crime scene photos, there was damage to the door. And this wasn't visible in the New Year's Eve photo of the broken glass. Something happened. It's possible someone had tried to come there and break into the home. Maybe they were going to wait for them to return home. And when that didn't work, they just had to blatantly go up and knock on the door. So that was something that a web sleuth user pointed out. Before I move on into the next part of this story, I would just like to remind everybody, if you haven't already, to please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, this gang initiation theory. A documenting reporter spoke with an anonymous prison inmate that didn't want his identity to be revealed. He claimed that Kathy and Samantha were killed as part of a gang initiation. They were tortured and tied to chairs, and both of their throats were slit, he said. And some trinkets were taken as trophies. Now, he claimed that a cell phone jammer had been used to kill the signal in the house so that no one would be able to use a cell phone to make a phone call. These details are hard to verify without physical proof. The rest of the inmates' information seemed to be details that were already publicly known. I don't know if anybody really believed this gang initiation thing. Um, I think that they were killed and Samantha was the target. And so I don't think it really had anything to do with a local gang. They couldn't verify any of the things that this inmate was saying, and he may have just been wanting to make some kind of a deal. Some people blamed Holly. They believed Holly had returned home, that she was living 2 hours away at college, and that she was contacted while she was away at college that her mother and sister had been murdered. And a lot of people in the community wondered if she was involved. They thought maybe she had hired somebody to kill her mother and her sister. The local gossip was that Holly was trying to get life insurance. And we go back now to the father who had died a year earlier. The motive was Holly trying to get life insurance from her father's death, which had been paid out like less than a year earlier. This rumor is not based on any kind of fact. Holly was undoubtedly the person most heavily scrutinized by investigators for financial motives. And of course, we all know that investigators will start with family members and the spouse. And this Kentucky State Police said they could find no kind of incentive for Holly to have done this, that she didn't know anything about it, and that these rumors were just that. They were just rumors. This was a 19-year-old girl who had lost her entire family. Her father had died. Now her mother and sister were dead. And she was away at college. And Holly says to put these rumors to bed, she donated her entire $50,000 inheritance to a reward fund for information that would lead to the arrest of the murderer of her mother and sister. In roughly half-decade since the crime unfolded, Holly has married and tried to move on with her life, but she remains hopeful that answers will be found about the murders of her mother and sister. So police say that they didn't release the video of this black Impala cruise in the neighborhood, and some people claim to have seen the car in the neighborhood prior to this. They captured it on a surveillance camera at a liquor store on that street. But police say they didn't release that to the public at that time because of the integrity of the investigation. I think had they released that video within days or weeks of this murder, they would have probably had a lot of people calling saying, I know someone drives this type of car. And go through the records of a black Impala during that time in that community, in that county, and see who had a vehicle registered in their name of that type. Go through the entire state of Kentucky. And just like this person, the family member of these people are saying that they believe that Samantha was the target. I do too. I think whoever came to that door was someone that they knew. Apparently, the mother came to the door because it said the daughter was killed coming out of her bedroom. I think this person came to the door. The mother recognized them, opened the door, let them in, and something happened. They shot and killed the mom. The daughter hears the gunshot and comes out of the bedroom, and this is when she was attacked. And I think that this was directed at her. Samantha was buried in her prom dress that she had bought just days before she died. If it was only days away from her prom and she had bought a dress, did someone not want her going to the prom? Maybe she had a date with someone and they didn't want her going to the prom with that person. Maybe it was a jealousy thing. This could have been a girl that murdered her. It could have been anything like that, and I think the police should have really dug deep into that. And that would have been something that I would have been, an angle that I would have been looking at. The simplest, the people closest to Samantha, an ex-boyfriend, the girlfriend of someone who might have been jealous if she had just started recently dating someone. Kathy was a well-liked special education teacher, and her daughter Samantha was a member of the Bardstown High School academic team and chorus. She was in the 10th grade. Kathy's father, Norris Hardin, was the one that found them. When he was notified that Kathy hadn't shown up for work, he went over to the house to see what was wrong. He looked through the window and he saw Kathy laying on the dining room floor. He ran around to the back and let himself in to the house, and this is when he saw Samantha. He called the police, and first responders rushed to the scene. There was a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest, and the number to the state police is 270-766-5078. The case was last updated in February of 2024. I'm just going to say I personally believe that Samantha was the target of the person. I can't imagine what it was like for Kathy's father to go there when he gets a call from someone concerned that she hadn't shown up for work. And he goes there and he finds his daughter and his granddaughter dead. I'm sure that they cleaned up the crime scene and took DNA. And so I don't know about all of that. I don't know how much the police, who was interviewed. I don't know what angle they were looking at this as. I don't believe that they ever thought this was just some random break-in or some random person who just showed up at their house. On the camera footage from across the street, it shows this car. It shows someone coming to the door. It shows someone opening the door, and this person was let inside. Whoever this person was known to Kathy. It's really sad and just hard to imagine, hard to think about, really. This young girl who had her whole life ahead of her. She knew what she wanted to do with her life, and she'd worked so hard in school to get good grades and to join these academic teams, and she had these opportunities coming her way. And for some reason, someone out there decided she didn't deserve that, or they were angry enough at her or her mother to prevent that and to take her life at such a young age, such a promising life. So many years have passed, 12 years have passed, and the police are still no closer to solving this, and really don't even know if they're investigating it or not at this point. There is a number here for the Kentucky State Police, 270-766-5078. For anyone who has any information. Thanks for watching.